So, dear colleagues, may I invite you to take your seats and we start with our meeting. So good morning, dear colleagues. Welcome to our second day here in Athens in our bureau meeting, together with our Greek friends. First of all, I want to thank the Greek delegation and Kyriakos again for the dinner yesterday evening. It was a great place with a great view, and it was also a great evening to be together. Elisabetta, I don't see her for the moment, Gardini complained that there were no speeches yesterday evening. Hopefully none of the other colleagues are complaining about this, because Kyriakos and we decided to skip the speeches and directly go to the dinner. I think that was a good decision for yesterday evening. We had enough of discussions and of talks, and the private exchange is also important for such meetings. So again, thank you, and I want again to welcome the President of Neo Democracy, our friend Kyriakos. It's great to have you again here with us. Welcome in the morning. Dear friends, the Friday here in Athens, we have decided to put two issues on the table. First of all, to get an update and report, a presentation from our President in the European Parliament about what are the political priorities for the moment, with his talks with the leaders of Europe as representative of our institution, of our EPP representative of the institution, and on the other hand to give also an outlook about the campaigning. And that's why I'm really very grateful that our President Antonio Tajani is with us. Antonio, warm welcome, good morning. And the second element afterwards will be to have a panel discussion about the Mediterranean Sea. So where we have together with Kyriakos and Antonio the chance to talk about the initiatives, the possible ideas for the stabilizing of the Mediterranean Sea. We have there a lot of challenges, a lot of problems ahead of us, and there also the EPP must give an answer during the election campaign. That are the two issues for this morning, and now I give the floor to Antonio Tajani. Please, Antonio, come to me.
Καλημέρα. Ζήτω Νέα Δημοκρατία. Ζήτω.
Long live the New Democracy Party and Greece.
Heritage. Greece is our heritage. Without Greece, we don't have Europe. We have a common heritage. The European People Party is the image of our heritage, is the image of our identity, our Christian identity. We need to be very clear. The European People Party is the key of the future of the European Union, is the future of Europe. Without us, it's impossible to have a new Europe. It's impossible to have reforms in Europe. Without us, it's impossible to have stability in Europe. Without us, it's impossible to have a good economic strategy for Europe. Without us, it's impossible to have a new, good President of the European Commission. Without us, it's impossible to work for the future. Without us, it's impossible to achieve solutions against illegal immigration. Without us, it's impossible to beat the terrorism. Without us, it's impossible to defend our borders. Without us, it's impossible to work against youth unemployment. They are the key points. Without us, it's impossible to strengthen the future, the power of the European Parliament. Without us, it's impossible to strengthen European democracy. Without us, it's impossible to compete at global level. For this is crucial to work all together during this election campaign. We need to work, Italians, Germans, Greeks, Spanish, French, for strengthening Manfred Weber's position. Manfred Weber, as President of the European Commission, is a new era. We will change. We need to change because without a change, we will have more and more populistic members of the European Parliament. For this, we need to propose a new season in Europe. We need a young man as President of the European Commission. We need to send a strong message to the European citizens. For this, I am working hard as President of the European Parliament for reducing the distance between the European institutions and the citizens. Because the extreme right and the extreme left, they don't have solutions. They put only the problems on the table without solutions. We are the solution. The European People Party is the solution. But we need a strategy, we need a policy. First of all, I think we need to work hard against unemployment. It is possible to achieve this goal only through an industrial policy. We need to work hard in favor of industry, in favor of small and medium-sized companies, but through a strategy, access to finance, trade policy. We need to protect, in this difficult moment, our industrial network. We are under pressure. We are under Chinese attack. Through the dumping, they want to kill our industry. It's Chinese interest to put more Chinese steel in Europe. But thanks to the European People Party, we blocked this attack through new rules anti-dumping. For this I want to thank Mr. Gaspari and Mr. Chiku. They worked hard in favor of our industry. I will be in the United States before the end of this month, and I want to explain to the Americans, we are friends. We need to work, Europe and the United States, for stopping China, for stopping the attack against us on trade. We have the same interest, the Americans and Europeans. I don't know why Mr. Trump wants to divide Europe and USA. It's a big mistake, also for the USA. What I say, will push in this direction. We need to compete with China, because China is working hard in Europe, in Africa, and also in South America. It's our interest to protect our trade, to protect our industry. For this, it's crucial also to change the relations with USA. But we need also, I want to be clear on this, to change our rules on competition. We have rules made in 1956. Of course, it's important to protect the competition among the European Union, between Italy, Germany and Spain, of course. But the problem is now between Europe, China, Russia, India and United States of America. For this we need to change our rules, more modern, in defense of the competition. But we need more modern rules if we want to compete at global level, all together as Europe. For this, I think, it's very important to have a president of the European Commission, but also inside the European Parliament to be the first group. We will be the first group. I am optimistic. Also in my country, it's important to vote for the EPP parties. We will be united in the next election campaign. Forza Italia, UDC, the Lorenzo Cesa Party, and Südtiroler Volkspartei. For the first time, We will be united in defense of our values for more members, Italian members, in European People Party group, for strengthening our strategy, for strengthening Europe, and more modern Europe, of course. But we need to do it. We need to explain in Europe to vote for extreme right, for the extreme left, is not a solution. It's only a problem. If you want to change Europe, we need to vote for the European People Party. But as EPP, we need to work for a new and more modern Europe. We need to work hard, for example, for a real external policy. We are the bridge between USA and Russia. Now we are in the middle. We are under attack from Russia and from many American lobbies. We need to be at the center of the political debate. We need to be protagonists in the future. It is possible to do it only with Trump is ready. For this, I think it's important to explain our position in the north, in the south, in the east, and the west. It's not easy to have a balance in Europe. After the new agreement between France and Germany, we need to explain to the other countries. We need also a strategy for the south of Europe, for the east of Europe. Only the EPP is a good mediator between the center, the east, and the south. For this, if the next president of the European Parliament will be EPP, I will run for another time as president of the European Parliament, because I think we need to have also a man coming from the south of Europe for a good balance of the situation, for strengthening the European Union, for strengthening the EPP position in Brussels, but not only in Brussels. But we need to work hard all together against illegal immigration. It's a problem in Germany, it's a problem in Greece, it's a problem in Italy, everywhere is a problem, also in Sweden. I met yesterday the new speaker of the Swedish Parliament. At the center of our face-to-face, the illegal immigration, because it's a problem not only for my country, but also for Sweden. But we need to have a strategy. We need to change Dublin, but we need to work a lot in Africa. We need to have a strategy for Africa. We need to put more money. I agree with Sebastian Kurz, with Angela Merkel, on a Marshall Plan for Africa. We need to put more or less 50 billion euros. China invested 5 months ago 60 billion euros. But the Chinese interest is not our interest. They want to have a network for investment, for business. Also, there are military interests, Chinese military interests in Africa. For us, it's important the stability. It's important good relations. For us are important the African raw materials. We are an industrial continent. For this, we need to work much better with Africa, to strengthen the relations with this continent. The only one solution is to have a strategy. We will have 2.5 billion people in Africa in 2050. And without a European strategy against climate change, against poverty, against terrorism, for peace, for the stability, without this strategy, we will have not thousands and thousands of people coming from Africa through the Mediterranean Sea. We will have millions of people coming from Africa. For this, we need to work immediately. And only the EPP is a party with a strategy on this, at party level, but also at government level. We are, as I said in the beginning, the solution of the immigration problem. We need to protect our borders, of course, but we need to have a foreign policy, also defense policy. It's impossible to follow every time the United States or the Russians in the Middle East, in Africa, in the world, in Afghanistan. We need to be protagonists. We need to strengthen our defense policy. But we need to have we need to do it because through European defense, Europe will be stronger among the NATO organization. And not every time Trump, put more money, put more money, put more money. It's our interest to have a new European defense. The only one instrument for a foreign policy everywhere. As Europe, we need to play a role also in South America. Thanks to the European People's Party, the European Parliament decided to recognize the President of la Asamblea Nacional, Juan Guaidó, como presidente interino de Venezuela.
As interim president of Venezuela, and that's a victory of the European Parliament, and it's a victory for the European People's Party. That's why, as president of the Parliament, I'm glad that the Spanish delegation of the People's Party and all members of the People's Party, I'm happy we won because the People's Party never gave up on us. They worked, and I remember the work that was done on behalf of the Sakharov Prize and on behalf of the opposition to Venezuela. And thanks to the People's Party, today, Mr. Maduro will probably step down from power. Thanks to Europe, thanks to the European Parliament, we've done a lot, and I think we're going to win the battle because we work together. And all of the other political groups have decided, the majority, have decided to do as we have done. And I think that that's very important. We can't leave Latin America up to the Chinese. We're talking about investment in Latin America, help to the Cubans and all of the communists and the regimes on the left. We are in favor of freedom and democracy and human rights. So we must defend the journalists that are being imprisoned every day in Venezuela. I think Europe can do a lot more in South America. It must be more present so that we can strengthen links with those countries where many South Americans of European origin live, be they Spanish, Italian, Portuguese, etc., in Chile and Brazil. That's extremely important, and it's important we do that from the Mediterranean. We can't leave the management of the situation in the Mediterranean up to others. It's Mare Nostrum. It's in our interest to work with the Africans in the Middle East, etc. Europe is lacking in the region. War is being waged in Syria between them, and there's no strong European presence. I don't think that the presence of one European country alone will be the solution. That's why it's important that we work together. And I don't think that the solution is a Europe that deals with minor issues. Europe must be the solution for big issues. Subsidiarity without values of the history of the EPP. That's our identity. Subsidiarity is our identity, as is the market economy. And that is why we should do what member states cannot do, or what regions or cities cannot do. If we do the opposite, then Europe will be weaker. Always. That's why I insist on trade policy, defense policy. This is all important for our goal of defending the rights of our citizens, 500 million European citizens. We must put people at the heart of things. All of us must be at the center. They are the protagonists. That's why the institutions must be at the service of citizens, and it shouldn't be the opposite. Sometimes the European Union institutions don't sufficiently take care of citizens, and that's why we need to change things in Europe. We need to lead the change. We need to be the leaders of the change in Europe. Why am I calling for more power in the European Parliament? Because we are the only parliament without legislative initiative, and that's a huge error. We need to use our power so that we can say to our citizens, this is democracy. It's not a Europe of bureaucrats, it's a Europe of politics and policies. We need more politicians in Europe. We need to rediscover politics. There's a lack of policies. Sometimes we have insufficient management of power, but Adenauer, de Gasperi, Schuman, and then Kohl, did they think they were going to just manage some power in the Berlaymont, or were they talking about rebuilding a strong Europe? We mustn't forget about our Christian roots. I mentioned this at the start of my speech. The debate is about values. What kind of society do we want? We can certainly engage in politics, but we need to have an idea of what kind of society we want. That's why I say that we need to be committed to the most important issues and not just managing minor things. We need to wake up our citizens and help them to dream. If we can do that, then we will win the elections. We need to give our citizens a dream. It's the future. It's strategies on big issues that we need to give to our citizens. We need to fight for values. We need to have a strategy as regards our position. We need to have ideas. We need to put solutions to the problems on the table. We need to focus on the problems. All surveys tell us that unemployment is the biggest problem we are facing. Youth unemployment, it's more significant than immigration. We should not allow young people to lose hope, because the risk today is that young people will lose hope vis-à-vis the future. We cannot accept that situation. And that's the EPP's role. It's the Parliament's role. That's why I believe we must lead things. We're not just talking about political victory here. We are the only political party that has a real strategy and a vision. We're the only political family that is a real political party. Look at the others. They don't have a strategy. We are the only party with a real political strategy, with values, with congresses. We are the only one that can debate on the various issues at hand. That's why I believe when it comes to managing power, certainly we need to have compromises, but we should never accept that others lead the way. It's up to us. It's our responsibility. We must do it. I've tried to guide Parliament in a very different way from Mr. Schulz. I've tried to show that an EPP president is extremely different from a Socialist Party president. And I didn't sign to give the Nobel Peace Prize to someone that was in the post of Prime Minister, because I think the prize should be given to somebody else. I think it could be given for the memory of Helmut Kohl and not to someone who's engaged in politics today. It's a different way of managing Parliament. We've had good results in the last 2.5 years in the EPP group. And that's because we've worked in a different fashion. Not me, we, I mean. That's why we must continue, and we must explain to citizens what we have done. We must present all of our arguments to change Europe. We must be at the forefront of change, not in a populist fashion. We must be smart, we must have proposals, and we must have solutions, because the populists don't have solutions. The Gilets jaunes. I'm really saddened when I see the Italian Vice Prime Minister of the People's Party goes to France and meets with people who are destroying shops and attacking police. I am on the side of the police and on the side of those who work, traders, entrepreneurs, etc. I don't understand why the two parties in government in Italy did not vote in favor of Guaido in the European Parliament. I don't understand why Italy blocked European action to recognize Guaido as the interim president of Venezuela. I don't understand. Maybe it was to try to win votes in the elections, or to pay a tribute to someone. I don't know why. Well, for us it was different. We put forward solutions in foreign and internal policies. We also need to work on banks and the banking union. I don't think that we can accept an agricultural policy which would mean that we are going to undermine the power of farming. We need to really discuss that in the next budget. I would have preferred to vote before the elections, but we also need to have a strategy from the EPP within the budget. What do we want? The only solution is to support the real economy. That's industry and agriculture. And in order to keep those linked, we need to focus on innovation and research. The same is true for cohesion funds in order to help countries that need to grow. We need to have a strategy for distributing this money. That's why I support what Parliament does when it tries to send out a strong message in this regard. Friends, I think that we have our strategy and we have good solutions. We need to move forward and we need to be committed so that we can transform our proposals in the next mandate into solutions. As I said, a real economy if we want to beat unemployment. We must change the rules for competition. That's a priority. Anti-dumping policies. We must step up links with the Americans and state that we need to work together. Africa, a Marshall Plan, Latin America, defense, the economy, foreign policy. We have a vision of Europe, and in the next Commission, which I think will be led by Manfred, and the next Parliament, I hope, will be led by the EPP, the committee will have to show that thanks to the EPP, the situation is changing for citizens. We should not remain in a deadlock. We are the change. We are the future. We never forget about our heritage, our history, and everything that the EPP has done in order to build Europe in the name of values and on values. That is the most important element. We must never forget who we are. Citizens need values today. In my country, I'm saddened when I see some professors who decide that when students come from a country with a different religion, they take down crucifixes from the walls. That's not a sign of welcome. It's a sign of weakness. And other people don't respect this because they think that we have forgotten our identity. If we want to welcome other people, we should strengthen our own identity first and foremost. If we forget about our identity, then Europe will be finished. That's why it's extremely important that the EPP maintain the European flag held high and be at the center of politics in the years to come. They will be extremely important years. If the EPP is not present, then the populists will be in power, and that would be a catastrophe for all of us. Just look at what's happening in my country. A disaster for the economy, for work, for foreign policy, etc. That is why from today up until the month of May, we must all work together so that we can give Europe and Europeans a dream. Thank you.
Antonio, thank you so much for this great speech, the contribution to remind us about the bigger question. It's not only about legislation, it's not only about regulation, it's about the bigger question. When we are speaking about politics, about the future of the European Union. And I also want to underline again that we all appreciate how you manage the European Parliament, that we have an EPP president, especially what you said when we compare the way you do it together with the approach of Martin Schulz. It's a great step forward for a better management of the European Parliament. I'm really grateful for this. And a final remark, dear friends, please have in mind that our president is at the moment really heavily working in one of our big countries in Italy to defend, let me say, our pro-European approach against the populists, and to underline that it's not in us from Rome's government to complain against Paris, to complain against Brussels, to complain against Berlin. That's not enough. It's better to sit on the table, and there is only one Italian politician who is sitting, let me say, on the top level, really on the table, and that is our President, Antonio Tajani. So I thank you so much for your contribution today. Thank you so much. Please sit down. Well, the idea was, before we start with the panel discussion about the Mediterranean Sea, to give also the opportunity to have a direct exchange with Antonio. So I'll look into the room if there is a direct reaction request. So, Maria.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you very much for being here with us. I would like just to ask your prediction about the situation in Italy due to the recent forecast of the Commission, which are reducing the growth rate of Italy approximately to 0.3